Hello, I'm Dr. Moira Fitzpatrick, and welcome to the Daily Doc. We've been talking about brain health, so I thought today we could begin to focus on the complex gut-brain axis. And this is an area where there's a lot of research happening every day. And that connection is between the GI tract and the brain. And the brain then controls the central nervous system and intestinal homeostasis. And that connection of the gut-brain axis really begins in some of the cognitive regions of the brain, which then affect the function of the intestines. So what is it that affects homeostasis? Well, we know that the homeostasis of the microbiota is affected by the foods that we eat and our pattern of eating, but it's also affected by dysbiosis. And dysbiosis happens when there's an imbalance in the bacteria of the gut. And so if you remember from what we talked about before, is we inherit our microbiota from our mothers, and then it's fed by the foods that we eat. Now, when there is this dysbiosis, it can deregulate the gut-brain axis. It can also cause permeability in the gut barrier, which is commonly known as leaky gut. But we're interested in this dysregulation of the gut-brain axis because it contributes to inflammation. And inflammation can also cause a triggering of T cells in the microbiota, which can then trigger an autoimmune reaction. But in terms of the brain, what happens when there is inflammation that affects the brain? Well, there's certain cells, or there's what we call the microglia that protects the brain. And when there is inflammation, the microglia get activated. When the microglia get activated, then we have an inflammatory response. And one of the things that we do know is that when the microglia get activated, there's an increase in amyloid beta and also the removal of amyloid beta, which are hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. And when you have increased microglia, you have increased inflammation, and then you have neuroinflammation. And we know that inflammation is the cause of all chronic disease. So why am I telling you this? I'm going to tell you a story that I hope is going to put it together for you and help you recognize the importance of the gut-brain axis. So I had a patient, an elderly patient, and he was having major problems with his memory. Not only was he having major problems with his memory, but he had been fainting. He was very depressed and fatigued. And when he went to his conventional doctor, they assumed that the reason that he was fainting was because it was summer and he was dehydrated, which may have been part of what was going on. But as I explored the situation with him further, it turned out that he had had diarrhea for over a year. And so the first thing I know is, well, there's dysbiosis going on, and there's probably some sort of leaky gut. And my hypothesis was that what was going on in his gut was affecting his brain. Well, this gentleman was already taking Alzheimer's medication, but he wanted to get to the root cause. So what did we do? We did some testing. We tested for his microbiome. We tested his brain to see if there was a breach in the blood-brain barrier, and we tested for food sensitivities. We got all that information back. Yes, he had inflammation in his gut. He had a breach in his blood-brain barrier, and his microbiota was very imbalanced. So the first thing that we did was I had to stop the diarrhea and repopulate the gut so that he had a stronger microbiome. We also healed the leaky gut, and I also gave him some supplements for neuroinflammation. Well, what happened over time, and it didn't take too long to stop the diarrhea, he healed his gut. He started feeling better. His memory came back, and he had some energy. He was able to get the nutrients that he needed. And so today, probably a year later, he's doing real well. He's off all of his medications. He's got lots of energy. He's re-engaged in his life, and he has a quality of life. So whenever someone presents with any sort of neurocognitive issues, the first thing I want to do is I want to check the health of the gut, because I know that there's that strong connection between the gut and the brain. So think about, what can you do today to support your brain health? What's going on with your gut? What can you do to improve the health of your gut? And the first thing is, what are you eating? And we do know that people's cognitive function improves when they eat good quality food, meaning organic fruits and vegetables, and enough protein that supports the membranes of the brain. And then there's always the omega-3 fatty acids. So what's essential for the brain? Omega-3s, B vitamins, vitamin D, and polyphenols, which are foods of a variety of colors. Take good care of your brain so that you have a quality of life.